Back live with you tonight on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. In his most recent opinion piece, researcher Duma Gqubule says the energy debate is becoming polarized along racial lines, with many white people attacking Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe and black people backing him for telling the truth. Gqubule says the problem here is that factions are deflecting attention from President Cyril Ramaphosa's lame leadership. And for more on this, we are now joined by Duma Gqubule himself to expand a little bit on this. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. I mean, there is this sense continually that we are having almost a delayed reaction to the crisis. It has not been explained, particularly on the part of the president. I mean, to the point where even right up until the last day, he was actually planning to go to Davos. And I think, I don't know what happened at the very late stage, then he decided, hold on, this is a crisis, actually, I can't go, I'm staying behind. Yet we've been seeing a consistent load shedding the whole of December. How do you explain that kind of behavior?
Thabo, I think we should realize that a lot of people talk about load shedding as being there since 2007, but we've got to remember that for most of the period since 2007 till 2018, there was no load shedding. And for the 9 years that Jacob Zuma was in power, 7 out of those 9 years, there was zero load shedding. So load shedding, the unprecedented plant breakdowns started around 2018. So 85% of the load shedding since 2017 happened when President Ramaphosa has been in charge. And so what we've seen, especially in the past year, is an acceleration. In fact, since Andre de Ruyter was appointed in January 2020, an acceleration of these plant breakdowns. So you see, since he was appointed in January 2020, 75% of the load shedding, it accounts for 75% of the load shedding since 2007. So most of this unprecedented load shedding, I think about 45%, has happened last year alone in terms of the energy shed. So what I was saying in that article, Thabo, is that let us focus on the immediate crisis. And the Minister of Minerals and Energy is correct when he points to the fact that 50% of the fleet of Eskom has been regularly down. So the quickest way to solve this crisis is to get the fleet to work. Yeah. The fleet has been wrecked over the past few years, especially under this leadership of Andre de Ruyter, and we have to fix that. Independent power producers will not solve the crisis in the short term. The majority of South Africans can't get off the grid, so the majority of South Africans will continue to depend on Eskom. And our economy, if you listen to the Reserve Bank earlier today, they were saying that they have now forecast the economy to grow by 0.3% for next year and 0.7% in 2020. 0.3% this year and 0.7% the following year. Now that is an economic calamity. We can't continue with this. It is going to result in soaring unemployment, poverty and inequality in South Africa, and all South Africans must rally behind finding the solution. And the immediate crisis, I appeal to South Africans, let us focus on the immediate crisis, and once we've addressed the immediate crisis, a proper country has to invest every single year in adding new capacity to the system. It shouldn't even be something that is debated in Parliament or wherever. We must just be like normal country where you invest in your capacity every single year.
New capacity takes time to come on board. You articulate that in the opinion piece. But one energy expert was saying, as you put it, the reason why we are seeing an increase, a rise in unplanned outages in at least the last 24 months, maybe even the last 5 years, if you like, is because when they look back, we decreased our planned outage time in order to maintain these power plants. So the reason why now it is seemingly going up the way that it is, it's because of the time that we did not put in when at least the machines were still running. Now, the challenge becomes that where we are now, they are below 50% energy availability factor actually. And to reignite or replenish the current ones that we have is going to mean that we're going to have, again, prolonged periods of load shedding, because those power plants would need to be properly not decommissioned, but be properly switched off and be properly maintained.
Well, first of all, it's a myth. If you look at the Eskom technical indicators, Eskom has been spending on what you call it, there's no evidence that Eskom didn't maintain. I'm talking about even before 2018, and ever since Andre Reuter became CEO, he has increased the maintenance spend at Eskom in terms of the planned maintenance ratio. And I think it's gone up to about 12 or 12%. Now, the problem at Eskom right now, they are maintaining, but the plants are breaking down within a month. One of the engineers was showing me the graph where most of the plants, you're taking it to get maintained, and a month later it is breaking down. So they're saying, in their words, not my words, our maintenance is not, we're not getting the results that we expect from our maintenance. And they shouldn't blame what happened in the past, because in 2018, Eskom had an energy availability factor of 78, and at the same time, the planned maintenance ratio, I can't remember, it was about 12 or 13%. It's way above what we require to fix, well above the benchmark of 10%. And I think that we must say so. Why can't you fix these power stations? I don't understand. Yeah.
So tell me that you're suggesting that the 6-month power plan that has now been updated by the president is at odds with what the board is presenting.
Okay, yes. So they presented a plan on Saturday, and they said Gqubule will be online, and that is part of the new capacity that's going to come onto the grid. But the next day, Eskom itself said Gqubule 1, 2, 3, and 5 will be offline for 1 year. So I was saying that the left arm of government doesn't know what the right arm, because the update that the president gave us says Gqubule will be online, and the one that Eskom says, which we should believe, is that it will be offline for a year. But what was really surprised about the update that the president gave is that in July, they said they're going to focus on the 6 power stations that are giving the most problems. There is no update as to what happened with those 6 power stations. Why are they giving so much? We're talking about Tutuka, Duva, and so forth. These are the power stations that are causing the most problems and in terms of the breakdowns. But there was no proper report back as to what is happening with those power stations.
Yeah. I spoke to the union there. I think it was at Matla. Maybe I could be wrong. But one of the union members was saying, part of the challenge is, and in simple terms so that everybody understands, is that none of the original equipment manufacturers, OEMs, are actually providing us with the equipment that we need to maintain these. So you'll be driving a Mercedes-Benz, but you'll be putting Toyota parts in it to service it. Hence, they keep on breaking quite regularly.
Yes. So I think the government must go back to these original equipment manufacturers and get them on board in terms of, it's absurd. They must come back and they must help South Africans fix these plants, because that is what's going to get this load shedding, us to stop this load shedding, which is having a devastating economic impact.
Yeah. And how do we get them to commit, I suppose, even economically, to help us through, so that we don't keep on going back to them, because they might also see this as an opportunity to make some more money, because we are now in a desperate spot.
Tabi, I'm not sure how that works in terms of the relationships and the contracts that we have, but I just have to say to South Africans that there should be no budget constraint when it comes to Eskom. Whatever it takes, whether we have to burn diesel, as long as there's responsible management there, a proper management team, you must spend whatever it takes, because the devastating economic cost of this, thousands of businesses are being retrenched. People are retrenched. Every time you go out, you meet someone, people are being retrenched in the economy, and it's going to get worse over the next 2 years if this forecast by the Reserve Bank is correct.
Yeah. You are saying what the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy was saying is correct, but was lost in translation. Explain what he was saying.
No, he was saying, sorry, that the minister, he's been saying repeatedly, bringing attention to the fact that, there's 20,000 megawatts that is idle, and so a lot of the journalists were doing fact checks on it and say, no, it's not idle. So I was saying, no, maybe it was lost in translation from Xhosa to English. And what he meant is that, that more than 20,000 regularly is down due to planned and unplanned breakdowns. That most South Africans know what the minister was talking about, and most South Africans do agree, yes, with that, yeah.
Do we even know, Duma, at this point, if those power stations that have been decommissioned can actually be revived and what it will take? Because I believe at some point, if one power station breaks, they would quickly run there, take the part, and go and put it in another one. And so that decommissioned one is left now without parts at this particular point.
Thabo, I think part of the problem is that we haven't been getting proper access to, people haven't been talking to Eskom. We're not sure exactly what is going on, because even when they're given updates, they don't tell us in detail actually what is going on. So I don't really have, I listen to all their updates and all that, but I just feel that we're not getting, you have to solve this power station by power station, and that's the level of detail that we need as a country.
Yeah. The targeted energy availability factor announced by the board, 60% for the year end March 2023, 65 for 2024, 70 for 2025. Do you think this is a realistic target? Is it attainable?
At the time I was writing the article, I thought it was a realistic target. But now when I saw this forecast by the Reserve Bank, I thought maybe the board was being a bit conservative. They didn't want to run into trouble later. But we have to solve this load shedding within the next year. We can't continue like this. I think they should set a more aggressive target. They should throw all the resources at it. And I think the board has, they said they've had 50 meetings to address in the last 4 months. By now, they should know what is happening, what needs to be done, and they know more than most South Africans what is the situation. And nothing less for me than a plan to get this thing back in an acceptable situation in the next year, because our economy cannot take this anymore. Yeah.
Duma Gqubule, appreciate your time as always, sir. Thank you very much for coming on. To researcher and economist Duma Gqubule there, calling us to rally behind fixing Eskom, saying budgetary constraints should not even be an issue when it comes to solving this energy crisis that is hitting hard on our GDP. Forecast now 0.3% and 0.7% in 2024, according to the Reserve Bank.